Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. HGM here. Now, I recently started a new character on a new server for the Greymoor chapter, and having played through the starter tutorial, I realized just how little ESO teaches new players the necessary skills and techniques to be successful in this game. Not a huge surprise really, considering how massive ESO is, but still frustrating, especially if you're brand new to the game. Now, with the help of some subscribers here on the channel, we came up with a list of tons of great tips that ESO doesn't really explain. And even if you've played the game before, there may still be some hidden gems in here that you didn't know about. So make sure to watch all the way to the end. These are the 12 beginner tips that ESO never explains. Tip number 1 is going to be very important for brand new players starting off in the Greymoor chapter. Maybe you just finished the starting tutorial, you get out into the world, and then this happens. And then this. And then a few seconds later, that happens. Well, there is a reason for this, and it's simple but a little bit weird. Your starting location is not a starter zone. Now, ever since the very first ESO chapter expansion of Morrowind, it's been this way. Brand new players get dropped into the chapter zone after completing the tutorial with barely any skills or decent gear or knowledge of the game, really. And this can be challenging when you go out to explore because these chapter zones like Western Skyrim or Somerset or elsewhere, these are not true beginner zones. These zones are actually created for all players at all levels, so you'll have a mix of some easier content like quests and delves, some like middle-ish content like the public dungeons, and then tougher content like hero storms and world bosses that will absolutely stomp a level 3 or even a level 30 player into the ground. So if you're brand new and struggling, I recommend taking a break from the chapter zones like Skyrim or Morrowind, whatever you have access to, and move over to a starter zone, at least for a few levels until you get better skills and better gear. In ESO, there are 3 starter zones. We have Bleak Rock Isle for Ebonheart Pact, there's Stros Mackay for the Daggerfall Covenant, and then Kynarthi's Roost for the Aldemiri Dominion, though you can access all of these zones regardless of your faction by using way shrines. Personally, I prefer either Bleak Rock or Kynarthi's Roost. Now, generally the enemies in these 3 zones will be easier, they're more spread out, you won't have as many crowds to deal with. You can still do quests, you can still gather sky shards and gear up your character, but there's no insane world events or world bosses to knock you into next week. And speaking of gear, all 3 zones also drop the same great beginner set for all builds and classes. This is called the Armor of the Trainee. This set increases all of your base stats, including stamina, magicka, and health, and it can be found on enemies, in treasure chests, or from completing the basic quests in this zone, and I definitely recommend you pick it up. For tip number 2, let's talk about questing. You'll be getting lots and lots of quests throughout your adventures in the Elder Scrolls Online. And when you get a new quest, that information goes into your journal, which is basically a log of all your active quests. When you get a new quest, you can read more about it in the journal. You can also show the quest on your map. I'm not sure why this is, but your quest journal can only hold a maximum of 25 quests, which is crazy if you think about it because hundreds and hundreds of new quests have been added to this game over time. But that's the way it is. The quest limit is still 25. When you do complete a quest, it no longer takes up one of those 25 spots. Or you can always remove quests from your journal. So go to your journal or type the J key if you're on PC, find the quest that you want to get rid of, and abandon quest. Now don't worry, you can still go back to the quest giver and pick up the quest again when you have some more free journal space. Now, speaking of quests, there are actually several different types of quests that you can get in the Elder Scrolls Online. Some of these are main story quests, some are side quests, and then some are just daily quests. The difference is actually noted in-game with these different icons. Icons will appear above an NPC's head in the game so you know who to speak to next, and the icons also appear on your world map and compass. First, main story quests have the largest icon, which looks like this. These quests focus on telling the main story of the game. For example, here I am in Skyrim talking with Lyris, progressing through the Greymoor storyline. So if you want to just focus on story parts of the zone, then this is going to be the quest that you want. These quests are typically a little bit longer too, but they can have better rewards, including item set pieces and skill points. Next, we have side quests, which are designated by this icon right here. Side quests can be found all over the map, in every zone and are generally quicker to complete than the main story quests. They can be part of interesting stories as well, but they generally won't tie into those main zone stories. For rewards, side quests usually offer some golden experience, maybe sometimes a set item from the zone. Then you have the daily quests, which are usually found in the main towns all throughout the game. These have a blue icon now showing that they are daily quests. And the main difference here is that the daily quests are actually repeatable in the sense that once you finish the quest, you can return to the quest giver the next day and get another quest from them to complete. Usually these are the most simple types of quests, like kill this world boss or find these 3 pieces of an ingredient or a recipe. Now in terms of rewards, these will give you some type of random loot bag, which you can get a random set item from the zones and even sometimes random gear motif pages. So the daily quest rewards can actually be pretty good depending on which zone you're doing the daily in. Now on to tip number 4, which is mounts and rider training. Now many new players get frustrated with the mount system in ESO for one, because when you get your very first mount, your mounted riding speed is basically as slow as your normal sprinting speed on your character, if not slower. The reason for this is that you haven't trained your riding skill yet. This is yet another daily activity in ESO that you can do to improve your character. So what you'll do here is head to the stables in any major town, and here you have 3 separate types of riding training that you can do: speed, stamina, and carrying capacity. You can only train 1 point every 20 hours, and I do recommend putting your first few points into riding speed so that when you actually do ride on your mount, you can actually travel the world faster than if you were normally sprinting. Tip number 5 is how to reset your skill choices and your attribute points. This can be done in the major faction towns in ESO. And to get started, you want to head to the Rededication Shrine. Now to do this also costs gold, though it can be done as many times as you want. At the Skill Reset Shrine, you can choose to reset all of your skills, which usually costs more gold based on how many skill points you want to reset. You can also just choose to reset your morph skills, which is usually a lot cheaper. So for example, I can reset my Magicka morphs to stamina-based morphs on this character. Then right next to that one should be an attribute shrine as well, where you can pay another fee to reset all of your attribute points. So health, Magicka, and stamina. Tip number 6 is how to adjust the third-person camera. Now the beginner tutorial does explain briefly how to switch between first-person and third-person cameras. Many players prefer a third-person camera mode in MMO-style games just to see more of what's happening around them, especially when you get involved into combat. But did you know you can actually adjust the third-person camera distance? So let's say you want a closer, kind of over-the-shoulder look, you can do that. Then we can also go all the way out for a wider 360-degree view, or basically anywhere in between. Now how you do this depends on your platform. On PC, you can usually use your mouse wheel while in third person to zoom in and out. And on console, you usually hold the down direction on your D-pad while also moving the right stick forward and back to adjust that camera distance. Tip number 7 is that buffs with the same name do not stack. Examples of named buffs in ESO are basically the major and minor buffs. So you have major sorcery, major berserk, minor berserk, and so on. And while I can have major and minor berserk on together at the same time because they are different, one is major, one is minor, I can't have 2 separate versions of minor berserk on at the same time. They don't stack because they have the same name. Only one buff will stay and the other basically gets ignored. Now let's take a basic buff example like Major Prophecy. This buff gives us 10% extra spell critical, and I already have this buff on my Templar skill Reflective Light, but it's also given to me from several different potions in the game. The problem is none of these sources will stack with each other because again, they have the same name, it's the same buff. So we'll see here on my character, just a basic character, I have 10% spell critical. Then using my potion, I should get another 10%, so I'm up to 20. Now if I cast Reflective Light, if they stacked, I would be at 30, but since they don't stack, you can see I am still stuck at 20. That's the way it works. Tip number 8 has to do with understanding set bonuses in ESO, because they don't always work out the way you think they should, and that's especially true when you're using two-handed weapons like a two-handed destruction staff, restoration staff, maul, greatsword, axe. This is because in ESO, two-handed weapons count for 2 set bonuses. In other words, if you have no set pieces equipped, Then equipping a two-handed weapon will bring you from 0 set bonuses straight to 2 set bonuses. Now what this means is I only need 4 pieces of gear in total to reach that 5-piece bonus if I'm using a two-handed weapon. A little bit hard to explain, but that's basically how it works. On to tip number 9, and we're talking about combat next. It's one of the most complex parts of ESO in my opinion, and unfortunately the game really doesn't explain it that well. Now the beginner tutorial does show you some basic combat moves like heavy attacking, blocking, that's true, but it barely even explains what those are for, and after playing the tutorial I was pretty surprised that there's not even a mention of major mechanics like dodge rolling, so let's go over that right now. Dodge rolling is very important in ESO combat. How it works is really simple. You just move in any direction, hit your dodge roll, and you will do a quick roll in that same direction. You know you're successful when you see the word dodge appear above your character. And this is really powerful because when you dodge roll, you avoid all incoming damage from that attack, plus any other effects like getting knocked down or getting stunned. Now blocking is similar but different. With a block, you only mitigate a percentage of the total damage, not avoid all of it like you do when you're dodge rolling. Keep in mind that both blocking and dodge rolling will cost your character stamina, but those costs can also be reduced by using certain gear traits and passive skills. Also, it's important to understand that some area of effect damage like this giant shockwave and ground smash abilities cannot be dodge rolled like other attacks, even if you're rolling through it at the time when it happens. So in cases like this, it's much better to use block, or if you can, just move out of the area of effect completely before that attack happens. Finally, roll dodge can be an important positioning tool as well, especially in crowded dungeons, because roll dodging through an enemy actually ignores the enemy's collision box, meaning that if you're stuck in a corner or if you're blocked from progressing, you can actually dodge straight through the enemy and keep going. Tip number 10 is all about heavy attacks. Now, the tutorial does explain what a heavy attack is. It's basically holding down the attack button for the full duration until the attack automatically fires. This is called a fully charged heavy attack. And this is different from simply triggering the attack button quickly with a button or a mouse click, which is called a light attack. And it's also different from holding down the button and then releasing it yourself, which is called a medium attack. Now, what the tutorial does not tell you at all is that only one of these 3 attack types will restore resources to your character. Can you guess which one it is? It's actually the fully charged heavy attack. And the type of resource you get depends on the weapon that you're holding. Destruction and Restoration Staff fully charged heavies will return magicka, while dual-wield, two-hand bow, and sword and shield heavies will restore stamina. And again, light or medium attacks will do nothing for your sustain. Your resource may slightly increase, but that's really just your character's basic recovery showing. To get resources back quickly, you must heavy attack. Tip number 11 is how to generate ultimate. Now, one other thing the game fails to mention in regards to those basic light, medium, and heavy attack mechanics is that all of those basic attacks actually generate ultimate for your character too. And in fact, this is the main way your character can recharge their ultimate points. Notice here that while I'm doing damage with my slotted abilities, I'm not gaining any ultimate here at all. That's because I have not done a light, medium, or heavy attack yet. Most regular abilities in ESO do not generate ultimate. But as soon as I do, here's a light attack, then my ultimate starts increasing. What happens here is that as soon as you complete one of those basic attacks, your character then gets an invisible buff that generates 3 ultimate every second for 9 seconds. This gives your character a total of 27 extra ultimate points. Again, you can see here, regular abilities do nothing. But every time I do another light, medium, or heavy attack, the special buff refreshes itself, meaning that as long as I'm doing some light, medium, and heavy attacks in between my actual skills, I'll always be generating ultimate, as you can see here. So the main rule for generating ultimate is you always want to weave in those basic attacks no matter what, as long as you're in combat. Also, a pretty cool trick is that if you do a basic attack right before combat ends, the ultimate generation buff will continue giving you ultimate until that 9 seconds runs out. Our final tip on the list here has to do with skill scaling. Basically, how do you make your skills do more damage or heal you for more? Now, this has to do with the type of skill that you're using and what it costs, either magicka or stamina. You can see I have a skill here, Focus Charge. It costs magicka. It does about 2,324 damage. Now, if I increase the magicka of my character by equipping a robe with magicka on it, that's going to actually increase the damage of that skill. You can see now my damage went up to 2,374, a slight increase. And I'm going to remove the robe and the damage goes back down. Another way to increase a magicka-based ability is going to be increasing your spell damage. So for example, I can use this potion. It's increasing my spell damage by about 20%, depends on your level. And once I use my potion, that skill is going to go up as well. Now it hits for 2,460. Now the ultimate thing to do here is I want to increase both my spell damage and my max magicka. So by equipping the robe again and having the spell damage buff, now this ability hits for over 2,500. I've done a good job increasing my damage by both increasing my max magicka and my spell damage. So again, the scaling of your ability depends on the cost. If it costs magicka to cast, the damage or healing done will increase by increasing your max magicka or your spell damage. Now generally that rule is the same for all abilities across the board, whether magicka or stamina, though there are a few skills that do not follow those rules. And usually if they don't follow the rule, it will say so on the tooltip, so watch out for that. For example, Sun Shield, this costs magicka, so you would assume if I increase my spell damage or my max magicka, my shield will get stronger. That's not true. This portion of the ability scales off of max health. It says right here on the tooltip. Again, those abilities are pretty rare, but you should watch out for them all the same. All right, everybody. With that said, that's going to wrap up this video on the 12 things the Elder Scrolls Online never tells you. Hopefully you found this helpful, whether you're a new player or maybe you're returning to the game after a break. Of course, if you did enjoy the video, don't forget to crush that like button for me. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button for many more videos and guides on the Elder Scrolls Online, just like this one. Make sure you turn on those notifications so you don't miss anything. Big shout out to the community here at HTM who came up with the majority of this list. You all are amazing. It's really awesome that you want to help out new players as well. And if I forgot anything or if I couldn't fit it into this list, please let us know in the comments section below. What are some things that you found that ESO never really explains? As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out my social media and the new website. Links will be down in the description. And until next time, I hope you're doing well, stay safe, and I will see you around in the next video.